All right, welcome everyone to today's panel on artificial intelligence in higher education. This event is sponsored by the Office of Teaching and Learning, and it's part of our fall professional development series on AI. Our panelists, who are all NDSU faculty and staff, include Rex Sun, Associate Professor in the Department of Agricultural and Biosystems Engineering. His area of expertise and research is on precision agriculture. Nick Dusek, Assistant Director and Research Facilitator for the Center for Computationally Assisted Science and Technology, which you may know as CCAST. Lin Chai, Associate Professor of Marketing, who's currently conducting research in the areas of product development and supply chain marketing interface. All three use AI as part of their work at NDSU and are going to share their experiences and insights with us. Today's panel is meant to be both informational and to spark conversations and sharing across our NDSU community. I'll provide a question just to get us started, but I'm hoping that this will be audience driven. So please add your questions and comments to the chat or the Q&A. So just to get things started then, I'm going to pose a general question to our panel, and anyone can pick up and be our first to respond. Can you tell us what seems most promising to you in the area of AI in higher education?
Hey, Stacy. So, hi, everybody. Yeah, I think the artificial intelligence right now, it's a booming area. I think we all heard about from the news. In higher education, I think it's about the nature of my research. I'm the AI guy in our department. We do artificial intelligence in agriculture. So I think artificial intelligence is really open a new opportunity to our higher education, not only for research purpose, as also for the teaching one. So like myself, when I was teaching in the classroom, one very important section is in my class is how artificial intelligence is going to benefit the farming area in the future. And then actually that's one of my favorite topics in our classroom. And then we also touch base about how to educate the students to get in touch with the AI with zero coding experience. When I introduced the artificial intelligence in the classroom, I wanted the students not fear about AI, because when we talk about artificial intelligence, the students think, oh, that's a computer science game, not for me. But actually, artificial intelligence right now, it makes so easier. Every major can use artificial intelligence for their work. And I think, from my experience for higher education, it's almost a must to let all the undergrad students, all the graduate students get to know AI and how AI can benefit their own major, and not only for the major who are very used intensively using artificial intelligence like computer science. But my point here is artificial intelligence can benefit to all majors and at all the education levels in the university system.
My name is Lin Chai. I'm really happy to be here today and also very excited to share my experience. I know there's always more to learn about the AI topic, so I'm really interested to learn from you guys and also hear about your experience as well. Now, to me, the AI has been incredibly helpful in addressing some of the biggest challenges for my courses. Now, before diving into how I have integrated AI into my courses, I just want to give you some context. So I'm an associate professor in marketing, and most of my classes are fully asynchronized and delivered online. So this semester, I'm teaching 240 undergrad students, and next semester, I expect around 80 to 100 graduate students. So my experience with AI is closely tied to managing these large online sections in an asynchronous format. There are a couple of main points when I teach this kind of classes. The first one is the efficiency. So managing so many students in an online asynchronous format can become really quickly overwhelming, especially when you're trying to ensure everyone stays on the same page. So to address this, I developed a chatbot app where my students can ask any course related logistical questions. So let me share my screen. This morning, I just took a screenshot of the chatbot, and hopefully it can give you a clear idea of how the chatbot looks like. Now, how this chatbot works. So when I developed this app, I link this app to communicate with the generative AI models, which I have trained using lots of course information. So when the student asks the chatbot question, the chatbot sends it to the AI, and the AI finds the answer based on the information I provided during the training and sends back the answer to the chatbot. So the student can actually get the customer response. Can you guys see my screen? The chatbot one? Oh, okay. So in this way, the student can quickly can get quick and accurate responses without waiting for me to reply. Now, this chatbot helps significantly reduce the number of repeated email I receive, particularly in the first couple of weeks, and allowing me to focus on students who need more personalized help. Now, it also improves the efficiency for the students because, the responses are really customized to their needs. So let me give you one example. There are always students waiting until the last minute to complete their work, like 1 hour, 2 hours before the deadline. I do not blame them because that's their learning schedule, right? When they try to schedule, their learning habit across multiple courses during the same semester. However, my general deadline actually is the end of the Sunday. So what happens? I typically get email from students asking for help in the late evening around 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. even later, but I cannot always reply them immediately, even though I generally respond student email within an hour in the daytime. But on Sunday, the late evening, I may not be able to do every week. Now, this chatbot actually helps in this kind of situation by providing the quick answers to the questions such as how to access the course material, how to download the lockdown browser, the troubleshoot technical issues, and many other logistics-related questions. So this has been very beneficial for my students and myself, streamlining the process and ensuring the smoother communication. Now, there's another way, actually, I integrate AI to enhance the student learning. By creating small customized simulation for my classes. I don't know what your guys' experience has been, but for me, let me share this one. But for me, it's been very extremely difficult to find simulation products on the market that fit my needs. So they are often too large, require so many weeks to complete, or they are too expensive, or the whole simulation not fully relevant to my class. Some part of simulation relevant, some part may not relevant at all. So what I need actually for my class was really simple. I need the simulation small that can align with the specific module I teach, that can also complete it individually in the short time, and most importantly, free for my students. So this is what I need. Unfortunately, I could not find anything from the market. And that's how I started my journey of developing my own small AI-driven simulations. Let me give you an example from one of the MBA course I teach. In that course, one module I focus on talking about developing innovative product ideas. Now, in that module, I introduced the random words game. That's a popular approach used by many Japanese companies to spark innovation. Now, in order to entertain the students in that class, I create really small AI-driven simulations. So in that simulation, the student can pick any random words and then select the industry they're interested in. And then the game will guide them through a series of questions to connect those random words into a plausible product idea. Now, what makes really exciting is that after the student collaborate with AI to finalize the product idea or the product concept, the simulation can generate AI images based on their description of the new product. well, the image may not be 100% perfect, but the student can still using prompt to refine the virtualization. But I think the true value of this small simulation is it brings the students' abstract idea much closer to something tangible. So last semester, I offered this one as a bonus activity for my MBA students, and I think the student love it. So a few of the students working in the NPD new product development roles actually mentioned that this simple tool closely mirrors what they need in their daily jobs. Yeah, so those are just two examples or the ways I have integrate AI into my class, particularly handling the large section of the asynchronous course. And to me, I think generated AI is very powerful and is truly a game changer. So there's still much to learn. I'm very excited to hear about your experience as well. Thank you.
My name is Nick Dushek. I work at CCAST. I'm not a faculty member. I'm a staff member, so I don't have my my own research program. I don't have to teach a 2-2 course schedule or lecture to 240 students. But so my experience is going to be a little bit more on the research support side and the operations side. And to me, what seems most promising about AI in higher ed is similar to what Rex said, this ability to apply models to kind of automate or speed up routine tasks in all domains. So, it could be something like if you're a microbiologist and you have to count the number of spots on a plate, and you have to do that for 1,000 plates, maybe there's some way that you can just have a machine take images of those plates, and then you can train an algorithm to count those, right? Or in ABEN, for example, there are many faculty interested in high throughput phenotyping, right, to try to save some time counting, the number of leaves on a plant or the height of the plant and so on and so forth. So I think those approaches are very promising. And oftentimes they don't require the latest and greatest models. So a lot of people are interested in these large language models, general purpose intelligence, and oftentimes those are the right tool. But for some of these tasks that can be very fine-tuned or described in very specific details, oftentimes a lot of smaller models and older models that aren't necessarily state-of-the-art anymore can do just fine on those tasks. And so we actually at CCAST, we have a lot of faculty, graduate students, undergraduate students interested in applying AI to various types of tasks. And although I agree with Rex that it has gotten easier, there are some tools online that can save you from having to code. But at a certain point, those tools cost money. And so if you kind of want to do it yourself, there's still a little bit of a bar, right, where you have to learn to code a little bit. So we try to help with that at CCAST. We do workshops in that area, try to give people the foundational skills they need to know kind of just enough coding or just enough high performance computing to be dangerous. But I think once people start to develop those skills, they find that they can train AI-based models on a wide range of tasks. And maybe, it's not as kind of exciting as what Linlin is describing, where she can train a large language model to field questions from her students. But some of these algorithms that are very small and very fine-tuned can save a lot of time in the research lab. And so, those are we enable both types of research at CCAST, but I think predominantly the interest is in the form of the fine-tuned models. So that's what I see as most promising. But I'm also excited to hear what Linlin and Rex's experiences are with different AI methods.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you explaining how AI plays a role in your work. I encourage the audience to please put your questions into the chat or the Q&A if you feel more comfortable doing that. The one versus the other, the chat, everyone sees it unless you send it just to me. Q&A, only the hosts see it. So there are no stupid questions, I don't think, but if you feel a little bit like this might not be a good question, you could just put it in or just send it to me, and then I won't use your name when I read it, so you can feel comfortable asking. Because even as I was listening, I thought, well, but Nick, what is a large language model? You know, there were questions that popped into my head that I think clearly these three are experts. And so I wanted to just ask maybe to take a step back, because not everyone can build their own chatbot. Not everyone can build their own AI-driven simulation, which I think is phenomenal. I was very impressed listening to the work that they're doing. And so I want to throw another question out there as we wait for the audience to get warmed up. But how can the average person use AI or make AI accessible? Like, where did you start from? Maybe taking a step back, that now you're experts, can you remember where you started from and help some of us just to get started?
So how can people get started with AI if they're not familiar with AI? Yeah, so again, my experience is going to be more on the research side. You know, as I mentioned, there are a number of tools now that allow you to kind of, without having to code, you can point and click, so you can choose a model based on the kind of task that you want to complete. And then it kind of maybe guides you through a little bit more what you're trying to accomplish. So I'm going to share, by way of example, I'm going to share my screen here. I didn't plan to share my screen, but I think it's best to illustrate with an example. And so a really popular tool that, you know, I'm sure Rex and Linlin have both heard of is Hugging Face. So, you know, this is a kind of an online repository for sharing open source models, sharing code ideas. People can upload their own models. People can use publicly available models. And there's a lot of other features here. So I'm not making an advertisement for Hugging Face, but this is a very popular tool. And if you just start to look at the models, you can see along the left here, it gives you these filter tooltips to kind of zoom in on, okay, what kinds of models are appropriate for what I'm trying to do, right? So maybe you want to take an image, right? And you want to auto-generate a caption for that image, right? So it takes a little bit of kind of vocabulary, but what you would be looking for is an image to text model, okay? So if I click this, there's a variety of different models, and I can sort them by, you know, what's popular right now. I can sort them by, you know, the best ratings or the most downloads, right? And so these are all models that are geared towards, okay, if I have an image and I want to produce some text from that image, these are the models for me. So, you know, for example, if I just click on this top one here, again, you know, some of these still require a little bit of coding, but one of the neat things is somebody can just drag and drop an image here and use this pre-trained model to generate some text. Now, that text, you know, this model particularly might not be fine-tuned to the type of text you want to generate, but I think this is a really nice introductory way to get comfortable with using some of these algorithms, so that, you know, you can drop an image in here, and I'm not going to do that, but you can put an image in here and you can see what kind of text it generates. And then actually on Hugging Face, you can even train this model with your own data. Okay, and that's where kind of the cost comes in, right? Where, you know, if you have a lot of data, then they want to charge you and they want your credit card, right? But for small data sets, you can actually pick some of these models, and you can train them a little bit on your own data, and then you can use the model and see how it performs. So I think this is a really popular tool, and I'm sure there are other tools out there like this that people are using. But I think, you know, just that idea of trying over here to define what your task is, right? What your input data looks like, what your output data looks like, and then you know, experimenting with a few of these different models to see how they're used.
I agree with Nick. And just to follow up on Nick's point here is, there are so many you know, free online tools to let you practice and learn AI, even including YouTube's. But to answer your question, Stacy, what got our started, like myself, particularly from a graduate school, the research project, what we are doing is using AI for detect the meat quality and the beef tender. Would that piece of steak is tender or not? Using pictures and to do that. But I think the artificial intelligence, we as a general public, we use that every single day. So for example, this phone. So if you wanna you take your face and then you face unlock your iPhone, so that's AI. So I think what AI is really get into our daily life, the threshold time, I would say that's the release of ChatGPT, whereas the OpenAI release that ChatGPT and that everybody get easy access to. Oh, okay, AI can do this much things to us. And then that's all. Of course, there's pro and cons about the large language model, but I think that really get to everybody, give everybody an opportunity to get the feelings about how AI works and how AI can help me with my daily work. Whether it's word editing, or we as a professors, we are lots of writing proposals, right? I use ChatGPT to correct my grammars, right? So those kind of things, I think it can really help us. Of course, the research project as well. That's all we do using AI for research projects. So those kind of things is really, it's again, my point is that the AI is really not far away from our daily life. It's happening every very, very close to us.
We've got a question in the chat. And so again, whoever feels most comfortable or in your opinion, what are the essential skills regarding AI that we should help students gain for the workforce or life generally, particularly for non-tech fields?
Maybe I can share a little bit. I'm teaching the analytic course. So for the MBA class, I teaching customer intelligence and analytics. Last semester, actually, I showed the student how to run the analysis without actually coding to talking to Python or R program. I think the ChatGPT, they use a Python. So basically, there's a way you can give the prompts, and then the ChatGPT will send the prompts to the Python to communicate back and forth about the report, the results, and then for the general user, you just need to know how to give the right prompt without knowing all those coding related things. So I think for my class, I would say the analytic skills, actually everyone can run it right now. Is not only like before, you need to get lots of training and computer science, lots of training, coding, and now the world is totally changed. Everyone can actually run this so easily. But I think the challenge is that actually how you turn those numbers into meaningful business actions. And from that part, I think the ChatGPT can also provide you some suggestions. But as we all know that those suggestions are based on the general knowledge base, right? So how different companies trade the ChatGPT models or the AI models. So different companies, they trade different way. We don't know exactly what are the things in the training in their knowledge base, but we still can get some suggestions, and then you're probably using your own judgment to pick the one you think probably you can go further to elaborate. So I think that's something I would suggest my students. They are non-tech background, and how to use the ChatGPT to run the analysis.
I would add to that, and I certainly, because I've taught a lot of coding, I've taught a lot of kind of computational type skills, I can really appreciate how difficult it is for people from non-computer science domains or non-tech domains, to acquire these skills. And I don't want to give the cliched answer of, everybody needs to learn to code, right? Because I don't think that's realistic for everybody. However, what I would say is that time spent learning to code, time spent learning some of those more technical skills is never wasted. And so I imagine in every field, we have a lot of students who may not be interested in coding, and then we might have some other students who are interested in coding, but they just don't know where to find the resources, or they can't waste time taking courses outside of their major, right? And so I think well, maybe it's not satisfying to hear that I think you still have to learn to code in 2024. I'm kind of the computer guy on the panel, so I do still think that's important. And I'm not going to say that everybody has to do it, but I do think for students in non-computer science fields that are interested in coding, we need to find a way to provide an on-ramp or kind of develop some coursework for people who are a little more ambitious, who are willing to take that on, because I think, you know, time spent learning those skills is never wasted. It may not be for everybody, but for those who are interested, it can really kind of boost their career, accelerate their career, and help them understand better, you know, when they're training a model, what should they be looking for?
I agree with that. Chai and Nick's point here. And just one more point about this non-tech fields students. For our precision ag major, and the majority of our students came from a strong agriculture background, and they have a farm. They want to come to precision agriculture. They want to learn technologies. And I think the one important thing is, at least my experience is, to get them excited. Like when we introduced this research project or technology, they came to the classroom and they are not learning. They're not coming into the classroom and learn how to drive a combine. They already know that. So they come to the classroom and they want to learn that technology side. So I think by introducing very basic, when I mentioned this zero coding experiences, I want to give them that, okay, this is a picture or this is a video, how AI can help you recognize the weed in your field. And then those, oh, okay, that's AI. And I can use that, and by help by this large language model, and don't underestimate the large language model right now. I mean, they can give you a really clear coding start point. And then, of course, you know, with the CCAS, Nick's help as well, there are workshops. And then by introducing this very basic knowledge of AI can do things. And when they get excited, they can get more and more knowledge about how to learn coding. And then those kind of things, I believe, that comes to the end, and then the AI can make more beneficial. But I also want to answer that second question. I read that in the comments about the AI. How can we make sure AI is doing something right? Because AI can make mistakes too, right? So I think that's I would really happy to answer that one. From my own experience, research experience, is we call that a ground truth data. So when we do AI work, give you a particular example is, right now our team is working on acquiring drone imageries and the ground robot imageries for weed identification. Like if I grow soybeans and then there's lots of weed in the field, I want to recognize that weed and also species using artificial intelligence. But sometimes, what if AI recognizes that weed is a wrong species? And then those kind of things that happen. So what are we trying to do is we trying to take a bunch of pictures, and then we literally using our eyes with the weed science expert, and to recognize that weed using our true value. We call that ground truth data. So there's always a validation point component in your research. You have AI data, you also have validation data, which evaluated by a professional. So using that as your validation point to make sure AI, that data is correct. That's one thing. The second thing I would say that's super important here is you need to make sure that data you collected is a quality data. We have a traditional saying, we do not want garbage in, garbage out, right? So when we do research, when we collect data, we want to make sure that data is very quality data. That's one thing. Second thing is when we label those pictures, when that's dive to a little bit of technology side on AI, is we also need to label those pictures like a weed. What kind of weed is? So we need to manually label that weed is ragweed or pomegranate, or those different weed. We want to make sure we label that weed correct. In another word is we want to tell the machine correct message. So when they train the AI model, they can train the correct data. It's not the wrong data in the first beginning. Of course, they're gonna generate the wrong data if you input the wrong information in the first place. So I think that two things is very important. We make sure AI is not generate wrong data is one, validation, and the second thing is we want to input the correct data in the first place.
I just have a couple of points added to Nick's and Sin's comments. Nick, I totally agree with you. I'm not evaluating about coding. I think coding is very critical, but I think the role actually changed a little bit. So with the AI, the general student with no coding background, they can get the results. But there's a question I see from the chat box. How about double check, right? Double check whether the answer given by the AI is correct. I think that involves your knowing about the coding. So from my perspective, I usually give some data like the ChatGPT run it, and then ChatGPT usually give me the coding for Python, right? So if you know how to read the Python code, you will easily identify the error. But if the student do not know how to read the Python code, that will be difficult to judge whether the numbers are right or not right. So I think that's the challenge. We actually we need to inform students. They need to be cautious about using the information, get it from the ChatGPT. And another question, another thought related to the double check. I think that's a really good question. So from my own experience, if you're using the general knowledge base, as I mentioned, there's no document talking about what they're in the general knowledge base, because that's a business secret, right? So you will never get those information. If you rely on those kind of information, you are more likely to get inaccuracy, the response from the AI models. But from my teaching experience, since I use general knowledge base, I take advantage of the learning capability of the model, AI model, and then I feed in my specific knowledge base using my course materials. Now, in that way, I ran a couple of experiments in the past couple of semesters, but I actually see the results are accurate, actually are accurate as much as possible. So I agree with since comment, the garbage in, garbage out, need to use those kind of training on the models to get accurate results.
Yeah, and I think those are all really good points, and I agree. Just kind of dovetailing off one thing that Rex said, when we have the ground truth data, right? So in research, if we're doing a specific task, right, like identifying a weed, as Rex mentioned, we start with pictures that we have classified ourselves as either being weeds, being not weeds, right? We train the algorithm, okay, and we then validate that algorithm against separate data that is of the same kind, but that we didn't use in the training, right? So we have these checks, and we can get a numerical accuracy. And so if we get a certain accuracy like 95%, and we say that's good enough, then we're willing to accept, a certain proportion of misclassifications that we acknowledge beforehand. And if we think that our algorithm is making systemic classification errors after we've already validated it, then maybe we have to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, is there a class or a type of data that wasn't included in our original data set? And how do we include that? When it comes to language models, I think it's a little bit trickier because we don't have a simple metric for accuracy. So these models are trained on a large corpus of text data, and we don't have, there is some testing, there is some validation, but we don't have, the simple kind of stats at the end that say it's 95% accurate. And so I'd be curious, Lin, what your experience is. You said the models you've used have turned out to be pretty accurate, but I'm sure you've heard, some professors are thinking, well, if students are saving time by using AI for their assignments, maybe I can save time by using it to grade the assignments. And so I wonder a little bit, again, I'm not a professor, but I wonder, number one, how do you adjudicate claims between advisor and student when both are using AI, right? One to submit the assignment, one to grade. Or maybe the student did the assignment honestly and the professor used AI to grade it, and the student says, I think this is wrong. I don't think that's what you're doing. You haven't gone down that path, but I'm curious in your thoughts, what you think about that kind of world in which both student and professor are using AI to manage their interaction with the course material.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful question. I may not have a perfect answer for you, but I would like to share a couple of thoughts. I think it's really important for the university level or college level has a AI policy to guide us what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, what is be considered as plagiarism or integrity concerns, all those things. Now, besides the policy level, for my class, as one of the example I share you about the small simulation for innovation. So I think in order to solve the concern whether the students actually rely on AI to do all the work, or they actually heavily or proactively involved in the co-producing process to come up the final report. So this is really critical. And I think this is also pose a challenge for instructor. Now you need to think about what are the rubrics you are using to evaluate their work. In the past several decades, we use product-centric rubrics, right? So you submit the output, and then we will evaluate the output and give you the grades. Now it may not be a really good way to do it because you never know whether the student just give 2 questions, ask AI do everything, and then write a report. Or another student give 20 questions and back and forth revise the image and get a report. So we need to differentiate these 2 kinds of students. So my solution, I'm not quite sure that's right, to be honestly. That's something I'm going to see this year. I would suggest to shift from the product-centric rubrics a little bit to the process-centric rubrics. Now, how could we achieve this? This is my thought. I haven't done anything yet. So for that small simulation, I'm going to add in some metrics, analytic metrics. So let's say, how many questions the student asked, how many times the student revised the AI given image, try to see, to make the product more aligned to their the idea they have. So a bunch of metrics, I don't know right now, but I could have a bunch of metrics to measure those things. And then when I grade the student, I will based on the product-centric rubric that's output and also some indicator from the process. And in this way, I can say even the student using AI to do all the work, there will be some indicator from the process-based. So this student will get less grade than the student actually put the intensive effort into the simulation. So that's something I have in my mind, but I really don't know whether it works or not, whether I can find really good metrics to measure those kind of things. That's something I'm going to try this year.
Thank you, Lin-Lin. I'm actually gonna back up just a little bit. So I was reading an article recently in a higher ed publication, and they said about 86% of students said the guidelines for AI use were unclear. Like they felt that they didn't have clarity around how they should use AI or not use AI in their classes. And I think we've done a really nice job talking about kind of the promise and the potential of using AI. And I want to turn just a little bit because I think we've gone that way to the kind of the ethical use. And I'm just wondering if our panelists could share with us what guidance do you have for students and faculty on ethical use of AI?
That's a very interesting question, and it's a question we cannot avoid. Unfortunately, from my side, I don't have a very clear answer for this question. For me, in my class, I don't have any strict rules of using AI or not. I'm an AI guy, so I think AI can benefit to all of the good things. But unfortunately, that while Ling was saying that in the exams, so I'm thinking that in my mind here is, as a professor, how can we make sure AI is not play a big part in students' exam and in the grading system, right? But, I guess there's just no clear answer there in the future because AI is so intensively involved with our daily life, like this large language model. Before we worry about student cheating, we can say, hey, okay, like me, I'll just give them the, instead of objective question, I just give you a subjective question. Like, what do you think about yield mapping for precision agriculture? I want to force them to ask their own thought, right? But now large language model can do that. You input the language question there, they give you 10 different answers. So I guess, AI is really great for helping us and assist us on lots of different things. But regarding the knowledge learning, I would more focus on what they actually really learn from my class instead of exams. I guess maybe my point here is in the future, exams become less and less important in the future. Instead of as a professor, I'm more focused on what do you learn from this lecture. Maybe give them a live quiz without phones, without any papers. Just tell me directly from your own thoughts. So more direct reaction in the classroom, like a live time instead of a real time, instead of giving them homework or exams. So I guess that's my not a very good answer, but that's just my thought.
Yeah, I agree with Xin. A couple of thoughts about this one. First of all, personally, I use AI every day, so I think it's not fair to not asking students use AI. But in my class, I do not have the AI policy, but I do have the making announcement about this and that. Actually, some announcement to talking about I support students using AI for learning purpose, but now for convenient purpose. And then in my asynchronous course, I use AI-driven discussion forum. So basically, they need to do the weekly participation, just like the face-to-face class. They can now say, hey, I just get the things done. I'm away from this course. It's now going to happen in my class. So they still need to participate every week. And then for that platform, actually, that platform using the post based on the AI thing. It's kind of interesting. This morning, I got email from a student says, hey, professor, my responses last week was flagged as AI. And it told me that's AI written, but actually it was not. It's my personal written. How could I solve this problem? And then what I actually go to look at that post, to be honestly, I could not identify. Okay, there is no way to identify whether it's AI-driven written or it's human written. There's no way. So there are so many detector tools. Most of them, they have really high type 2 error. So which means that human written be labeled as AI written. That makes sense because they are trying to make the money, right? So because of that, I never penalize my students. Say, hey, because the system flag your post, I need to deduct the points. I think it's not fair for the student because and you also do not want to involve in this trouble when the student appeal, right? Because even there's 1% type 2 error, that will not be enough for us to penalize the students. So what I did actually, I just comment the student, say, hey, I look at your post and it looks like your post is more general knowledge. Okay, there's no personalized stuff. You next time try to avoid this type of general talking, just give more personal reflection, more personal story, or more personal examples. And this will stay away from the system flagging your AI post. This is, I would say I use the soft approach, not the strong tone to the student. Hey, you are in big trouble. You are using AI written all the things.
I think those are both interesting reflections, and I don't feel as qualified to talk on this point because I'm not a professor, right? So, I don't envy either of you for having to kind of negotiate that tension between, doing honest work and using AI for the sake of convenience. But just some reflections from my own work mentoring maybe student interns or working with people who take our workshops. There's an old saying that a week in the library can save several months in the lab, right? And I would say, when it comes to coding or when it comes to technology skills, the same thing can sometimes be true of ChatGPT. So, a week spent kind of learning deeply what you're trying to do can save you, weeks interacting with ChatGPT. So, although some of these large language models can be very helpful for certain tasks, I think I have seen in real life students kind of following this iterative process where and this is specific to computer code, but they ask ChatGPT, give me some code to do this, and then they get the code and they go test it and it gives them some error. And then they copy and they paste the error into ChatGPT and said, okay, I did that, but I got this error. And then ChatGPT says, okay, try this, right? And And that process can take hours to converge to, solving the task that they actually want. So I think I would flip it on its head a little bit and say, in some cases, there's a natural disincentive to using AI. And the person interacting with ChatGPT or the student kind of realizes that they get caught in this seemingly endless loop of like refining their ChatGPT prompts until they get what they want. And so maybe there's a way that we can appeal to that and say, okay, in some cases, traditional web searches or a really good FAQ article or a well-written how-to can actually be more effective than kind of trying to throw whatever we can into ChatGPT and see what sticks. And I think that requires appealing to a student's higher motives of what do you want to learn? Do you want to learn the skills? Do you want to learn the techniques, or do you just want to kind of check the box? And in all walks of life, there are always going to be people who just want to check the box, but there are also going to be people who do have a deep desire to learn, and they won't take shortcuts if you kind of appeal to that intrinsic motivation. So those are some things that I've seen.
Well, I sure appreciate those who've joined us today online and the panel, especially for, I think, an informative and even curiosity building session as we thought about AI and the possibilities. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And later, if you think of a topic, please just shoot me an email or send one to the Office of Teaching and Learning, because we do think that AI is going to be something that is going to continue. It's definitely not going away. And so we've got to come to terms with it and figure out how we can best prepare ourselves and our students for use. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.